Nouvelle, the archetype Konami created to pay homage to some traditional French cuisine, such as your fish soup, your slow-cooked duck liver, and of course, perhaps the most traditional of all, your McDonald's Big Mac. Just a fair warning before jumping into this video, this archetype, it's not exactly the greatest. It's definitely not the worst archetype I've ever played, but it's not something that I'd be expecting to see in a World's Finals match, or something that I'd even really consider taking onto the ranked ladder if I wanted to seriously grind. But all that being said though, it does let you play a hungry burger. And that is probably the single most compelling argument for an archetype I've ever heard. So without further ado, let's jump into this archetype. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, so apparently about 35% of you watching this are even subscribed to the channel, meaning 65% of you haven't even subscribed yet. So if you guys are enjoying this kind of content and want to see more deck lists from me in the future, or more videos from me in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel down below. Alright, let's jump into this deck list. Alright, so first things first with the list, you'll notice I'm playing 50 cards. Now the reason for this is because this deck, unfortunately, there's a lot of pseudo garnets or cards you just really don't want in your opening hand. There's no sort of hard garnets in this deck list where if you draw them the entire deck is just completely dead and can't play, but in general there's a lot of cards in here you just do not want to open. For example, you don't want to open any of these two incantations, because normally you want to summon them as part of your combo to get their extra effects to summon or search for cards from your deck. You don't want to open a copy of your Madame, because if you open this card, you can't really use it as part of the combo, and it's just kind of annoying because you have to normal summon it and it gets all really awkward and confusing. You don't really want to open this card. You can, it will still be used as part of a combo if you have a punk card in your hand, but in general, you'd prefer to summon it from the deck, so it doesn't feel too great. We have the Nouvelle stuff, which you actually don't want to open any of the big Nouvelles, because you want to summon them via Nouvelle monsters for their various effects, which we'll talk about later on. So you only want to open the small ones. So these big ones, if you open them, feels pretty bad. It's not kill if you do open them, because they can be summoned from your hand, but it just feels pretty bad. Likewise, the trap cards, these cards are both searchable most of the time. You don't really want to open them. You're quite happy to open this card, because generally you won't get to search it as part of the main combo, but especially this one, you don't want to ever open this card because you're going to search for it anyway, so it just feels like a dead draw if you do open it. So hopefully you get the picture. We're playing 50 cards because we want to draw our openers or our search pieces or just all our combo pieces rather than opening these cards that just feel pretty bad when you open them. So more searches, more just ways to open the 2 cards you need for your combo rather than just playing, rather than just opening all these cards you just don't want to open. So there are 2 main sides to this deck list. There's obviously the punk side and the Nouvelle side. And there's actually a lot of synergy between these 2 archetypes that's just sort of random, because basically your synchro monster can actually search for one of the incantations, which searches for this card. And this card, by revealing one of your Nouvelle monsters, will just lead into a huge combo, as you'll see during the gameplay portion. So this entire deck list, if you open a standard punk line, which is literally a single copy of the admin, or a single copy of the searcher for the admin, or a single copy of the special summon for the admin, any of those cards, plus any of the low-level ritual monsters, and you'll have full combo in this deck list into a ridiculous amount of disruption. So there's a lot of synergy between these archetypes, and on top of that, we also have trap cards that target, and we have a synchro monster that can also target your opponent's stuff, and upon targeting your opponent's stuff, it will trigger the effects of your Nouvelle to then summon out your bigger Nouvelles from the deck list. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about all the rest of the cards in this deck list outside the Nouvelle stuff, because obviously all the punk stuff you've probably all seen before, and if you haven't seen it before, you'll see it during the gameplay portion anyway, and the combo portion, so don't worry about any of the punk stuff. We're just going to talk about the brand new Nouvelle cards. Alright, so let's go through the ritual monsters. So each of your ritual monsters has an effect on summon. This one will activate top cards of your deck, add a Nouvelle card to your hand. This one can destroy a spell and trap card. This one will draw a card. This one will then shuffle cards from the graveyard back into the deck. This card will search for a Nouvelle card from the deck. And this card will negate all of your opponent's monsters, and if you summoned it via a Nouvelle monster, you can tribute all of your opponent's monsters. And we'll talk about that in a second. Alright, so we'll start with the small ones first. All these also have a nice little bonus effect. Basically, If this card, or when a card or effect is activated that targets this card on the field, or when this card is targeted for an attack, you can tribute this card and one attack position monster on the field, that can be your field or your opponent's field, and summon out a level 2 or 3 Nouvelle ritual monster from your deck or your hand. Alright, then we have the level 2. The level 2 has a very similar effect, only you can summon out a level 3 or a level 4 when it's targeted for an attack or when it is targeted. Alright, then we have the level 3, and the level 3 is a little bit of an upgrade on that effect, because on top of summoning a level 4 or a 5, it can actually just activate its effect whenever any card on the field is targeted, which is why we're playing all the punk stuff that can target your opponent's things, and upon doing so, you can tribute this Nouvelle monster or a Nouvelle monster on your field, plus any attack position monster at all, can be on your own field or your opponent's field, to summon out the big Nouvelle monster, which will be the level 5. This card also has that effect, by the way, which is summon out the big one, because it's also, exact same effect, a 5 or a 6. So this one can actually summon out the level 6 as well, but generally you're going to be summoning out this dude first. Alright, this card then has a quick effect if it was summoned via a Nouvelle monster, so then target one of your opponent's attack position monsters, tribute it to summon out the level 6, which will be the big boy. And this card, like I said, on summon, negates all your opponent's stuff if it's summoned via one of those Nouvelle effects, tributes all your opponent's stuff. And on top of that, it has another quick effect to target an attack position monster your opponent controls and tribute it to summon out, of course, the Hungry Burger straight from the deck. So already, if that didn't make any sense, just wait to the gameplay and the combo portion, you'll see how it works. All these cards, whenever things are targeted, they're just going to slowly upgrade into the bigger ones until eventually you summon out an absolutely insane boss monster that's actually really goddamn strong. Moving on from the ritual monsters, we now have the only actual main deck monster that isn't a ritual monster, and also the only pendulum card in the deck list. Your pretty fish-serving lady that I'm not going to even try and pronounce that name. Alright, so this thing has a couple of effects. The first one is, if you control a ritual monster, this is your pendulum effect, you can target one monster on the field, special summon this card, then change that monster's battle position. Very important, of course, because your cards like targeting effects. When things are targeted, you can use your various things. And of course, changing battle position means you can put your opponent's things in attack position, so they can be tributed via your various ritual monsters. Alright, then we have its monster effect. If this card is normal special summoned, which by the way, be summoned via its own effect, you can activate one of these effects. Add one ritual monster or recipe card from your deck to your hand, or you can banish any number of recipe cards from your graveyard and special summon one Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand with a level equal to the number banished. Also, this card when distributed can just put itself back in your pendulum zone, which is great because then you can just recur it for extra resources later on. Alright, then we have your ritual spells, starting off with the first one, your fish recipe. These spells aren't realistically all that important in this particular deck, as you'll see from the combos, because a lot of the time you're actually going to be using the Impcantation ritual spell instead for a lot of things, but you do need these cards in here because you have your, of course, your preparation of rites, which requires these cards to be able to search for your small Nouvelle, and of course we have your spell card here, which requires you to reveal Nouvelles and add their corresponding recipes to hand, so that's why you have these cards in the deck list, despite not using them all that much. Alright, and the very simple effects, this thing can just ritual summon out any Nouvelle monster, and if you do summon out a corresponding ritual monster with it, you get a bonus effect. This one just gets you to add a ritual spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and this one lets you change all your opponent's attack position monsters or defense position monsters to attack position. Alright, then we have the spell card, which we just spoke about. Today's menu. This thing is one of your main consistency cards because it allows you to reveal 2 Nouvelles from the deck. Your opponent then gets to choose one of them to add to the hand, like they're choosing from a menu. Pretty cool little flavor there. Then you can add one of these cards from your deck to your hand, and you can choose from either a Beast Warrior or you can choose a Warrior. Now in this case, it's sort of an illusion of choice because you don't actually have to choose two of different types. You can just choose 2 Beast Warriors, and your opponent is forced to choose between 2 Beast Warriors, which in this case is going to be these 2, which are the ones you want for your standard combo anyway. So this card, it's only got the illusion of choice. Your opponent's going to be choosing one of these 2 cards most of the time, and you're just going to grab the one you want, or you're just going to grab the other one later on during the combo line. Alright, then we have the field spell. This thing when activated can add a recipe card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This can grab one of your ritual spells, or it can actually grab your counter trap, which we'll talk about in just a second. Alright, but probably the more important thing about this card is on top of being able to place one ritual monster from your hand onto the bottom of the deck, draw a card, it actually has a nice little recurring effect, which is great for a deck list with all just singular one-of ritual monsters and singular ritual spells, so you actually have a little bit of grind game, because once per turn during the end phase, you can target 2 cards in your graveyard, including a recipe card, place them on the bottom of the deck, and then you can draw 1 card. So it has a nice bit of recursion, which helps you in a bit of a grinding game situation, and you can search for this thing quite often off of your level 5. Alright, then the final card for the Nouvelles is going to be your counter trap, and this card is pretty crazy. When a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated whilst you control a Nouvelle ritual monster, you can negate the activation. If you do, if you do that, you can destroy the card if you ritual summon, or if you summoned out that Nouvelle monster via another Nouvelle monster's effect. I read that completely awfully, but hopefully you get the picture. Basically, you got a Nouvelle ritual monster on the field, you can negate the effect, but if you summoned out that monster via a Nouvelle monster's effect, you can negate and destroy that. Also, when this thing's in your graveyard, if you spell or summon out a Hungry Burger, you can banish this card from your graveyard to tribute as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. So yet another board nuke if you get to summon out this card, which just makes this card even stronger. Alright guys, I've spent enough time rambling about this deck list. Let's get into the gameplay portion, showing off a combo for this deck list, and then showing off an actual replay of just showing this deck list shitting on a Sky Striker player. Alright, so for this deck list, there realistically is only one combo I need to show you guys, and one starting play you're going to aim for most games. Obviously you can extend on top of it by having things like Emergency Teleport, or your French lady carrying some fish, which will help extend in different ways or do various different other things, but in general there is only one line of play you're aiming for, and going second, just depending on what your opening hand is, you might want to go for your rituals first to tribute your opponent's stuff, or just various other different lines of play, but going first, there is only actually one line of play you're going to be aiming for most games, and it's a 2-card combo using the Admin in combination with just any of your low-level ritual monsters. Doesn't matter which, depending on which one you open will just have various different effects, like excavating cards, or drawing cards, or destroying spell and trap cards, and banishing things, or shuffling things from graveyard back into the deck list, but in general, it doesn't matter which one you open, just any of these low-level monsters will just have the exact same combo. In this case, we're going to grab the best one, which is the Excavate. Alright. Now from here, again, pretend just with all my combo tutorials that just the rest of my hand is all just fat bricks and just random ass cards. We're just focusing on the 2-card combo for this tutorial. Alright, so summoning out the Admin. The Admin, of course, going to be searching for a copy of our Foxy Tune. Foxy Tune can now activate its effect to discard a card from my hand. And we'll just get rid of this teleport so it stops bothering us. Summoning out a copy of your Sharakusai from the deck. Now obviously, if you actually happen to open a copy of your Foxy Tune, you could use a Foxy Tune's effect to summon out the Admin search for this card, and then just normal summon this card. It's the exact same end field and you continue comboing. Alright. Summon this card using the 2 monsters on field. Summons out the Carp. Now the Carp can now attribute itself to summon out your Deer Note in combination with your trap monster from the deck, or the monster that searched for the trap card. Alright, grabbing the trap card, which is actually very important for your disruption in this deck, as we'll go through in just a second. Alright, now we're going to synchro summon out the level 8. Alright, summoning your Dragon Drive. And this will give you a search from the deck, and of course a special summon back from the graveyard. Alright, we're going to summon back our Sharakusai, so we have a synchro summon during the opponent's turn. Alright. Now from here you have a bit of a choice. If your hand is the complete and utter brick, let's just say you didn't actually open this ritual monster, it's just all bricks, you could just search for your hand trap here, and you still have a relatively decent end field just with what we got already. With your hand trap, which will destroy some cards on field, a synchro summon to bounce some cards on field, and we have the trap card which can negate a card on the field. So already a fairly decent end field, so if your hand is completely bricky, you can just search for the trap card here. But in general, you will have a low-level ritual monster in your hand, so you can search for your Impcantation instead. Alright, now we can use the effect of this card, revealing the ritual monster. Summon this card to the field, and this will search for your spell card searcher. Alright, and this card will grab your Impcantation. And now we can ritual summon the low level monster in your hand. Doesn't matter which thing you use as material here, because you're just going to tribute the other one anyway in a second. Alright. Summon this thing in attack position. Now it's actually important, by the way, that you put this thing in attack position, because it will matter when we get into the disruption part in a second, which we'll talk about later. Alright, this thing's going to activate and grab a card from the top of your deck, add it to your hand. In this case, you don't actually, this isn't part of the actual combo, you don't need to use this effect, but because obviously we did open it, we're going to use this effect and generate a little bit more advantage. And we're going to add a copy of, well, we're going to grab this card in a second, so we'll grab this one. Alright, now we can use the Impcantation spell to tribute this dude on the field. To summon out your Ritual Searcher. And he's going to grab the level 3 from the deck. Now if you open the level 3, you'd search for the level 1 here, but in this case we opened the level 1, so we're going to search for the level 3. Alright. And this is the only one that's actually important to have on the field. This one could be any of the other ones, like you could have this level 1 here, or the level 4 Nouvelle monster, doesn't matter which. This one's the only important one, because you need it for the disruption to use during your opponent's turn. So now I'm going to use this ritual spell, summon out this dude using the final Impcantation. And he's actually going to draw us a card. Alright, and that is actually going to be our end field, because this end field has actually got a lot of disruption on it. First of all, we have our trap card, negating something, we have our synchro summon, removing some stuff, we have whatever other cards we've drawn into, and of course we have our Nouvelles. Now the Nouvelles contribute an attack position monster and a Nouvelle monster to summon out your bigger Nouvelle from the deck. That monster can then tribute another attack position monster on the field to summon out your bigger Nouvelle monster from the deck, which negates everything, pops a bunch of things, and has another tribute of your opponent's stuff. So, a lot of disruption here. Alright, we'll see if our opponent here, Practice AI, will trigger any of it. But you'll see all that during the replay portion anyway, but I'm hoping this guy will try to swing into something, which he will. Alright, so he's going to try to swing into my monster. In this case, because something was targeted for an attack, I can now activate this thing's effect. You could also, by the way, activate your trap card, which targets a monster on the field, which triggers this card's effect as well. So either of these will trigger the effect, whether it be someone swinging into you or you just targeting a monster to negate it. And now we can use this thing's effect, tributing an attack position monster on the field, and a Nouvelle monster. So in this case, we're going to get rid of this level 1, get rid of his monster, and this will summon out the bigger one from our deck. And this card, obviously, it can now add a card from our deck to our hand because it was special summoned. And on top of that, like I said, we'll just add the field spell here. And like I said, this card can actually just target another monster on my opponent's field, tribute it to summon out the bigger one from the deck, which then negates some things, tributes some things, and yeah, that's basically the standard combo for this deck list. Alright, today I've got one replay to share, and honestly, this is probably one of the best replays I think I've ever gotten with a deck list. I got this replay on the very first game I tried to record playing this deck list, and it shows off absolutely everything, and I mean everything I wanted to show off with this deck list, so you're gonna love it. Alright. So first thing you'll notice is I actually opened one of the Incantations, which means we have to get a little bit, what's the word? A little bit creative with our plays, because we can't go for the super stock standard combo. We have to change it up a little bit in the midway through, and I'll show you where I do it. Alright, so first thing I'm doing is searching for my ritual monster. Gonna grab the recipe as well, because you kind of have to. Not really gonna do much with this recipe though. Searching for my Xiadmin. Gonna be searching for my Foxy Tune. Then Foxy Tune going to be discarding to summon out the Sharakusai from the deck. Now honestly, I don't think I necessarily played this turn 1 perfectly. I think I maybe could have used this Deer Note to try to extend a little bit further to something else by discarding maybe this recipe and trying something else, but I still ended on a very decent end field, as you'll see. But maybe some punk experts absolutely swearing at me in the comments right now for not going for the optimal line of play. Alright, these two cards are going to become my Dragon Drive. Dragon Drive going to be searching. And summon back my Sharakusai. Alright, searching for, of course, the Impcantation, which we're now going to summon. This one could be searching for our spell card. Ritual Summoning out our level 1. Giving us a nice little excavate to try to hit some cards off the top of our deck. And we did hit, I think, the level 2 here? Yeah, we did. I'm not going to use him this turn, but he's nice to have him in our hand. And here's where we get a little bit creative, because normally, obviously, you would have wanted to use the Impcantation spell to tribute off your Impcantation and summon out the other one from the deck, but he's in our hand. So instead, we're going to summon out our whatever nice, pretty French lady holding the fish. Alright. And she's going to target a monster on our field. And because I targeted this ritual monster, it can now use its effect to tribute a Nouvelle monster and an attack position monster, such as this card over here, to summon out the level 3 from the deck list, which is the only one we actually need. And of course summoning this card and putting it in attack position, which is very important, as you'll see later on, because we need an attack position monster to tribute in case our opponent tries to imperm this. Alright. Which is why during the combo tutorial, by the way, I told you guys to generally summon this card in attack position if you can. Alright, searching for the counter trap, because this card was special summoned. And drawing a card. Alright, I might be able to extend a little bit further with this card as well, but I was pretty happy with this end field, so I just passed. Alright, and thankfully, literally right on cue, our opponent tried to imperm this, which is fantastic, because it shows off this interaction. This is why we put Sling in attack position. If they imperm this, you'd be screwed. Unless, of course, you've got Sling to tribute in attack position, so you can just tribute off this card, and the Nouvelle monster, of course. And this leads to summon out the big boy from the deck, our Prismatic. Alright, him on summon can now grab a card from the deck. This card, because it was tributed, can actually put itself back in the pen zone, which is useful because we can use it for more recursion. Alright, grabbing the field spell. If you're wondering, by the way, why I generally choose to grab the field spell, it's because the field spell actually has a bunch of draw on it, and it shuffles back cards from the graveyard back into the deck during the end phase, which is good for a deck list where we're only playing one of each of the ritual spells or ritual monsters, because you can just recycle them. That's why we're generally grabbing it. Alright, our opponent's playing Sky Striker. Alright, first of all he's going to use his Upstart Goblin to draw a card. Banishing 10 cards. I'm actually going to choose to negate this because I don't really want him to draw it. He could actually have like a droplet in here or something that I really want to negate with this, but in general, I don't really want him to draw into one of those board breakers that Sky Striker normally runs, so I'm just going to negate it here and just hope he doesn't got the board breaker in hand already. A little bit risky. I think some people wouldn't choose to negate here, but I decided to. Alright, he's now going to use his Feather Duster, which is a little bit annoying, because now we don't have the targeting effect from the trap card. We can still get the targeting effect if we wanted to from the Synchro monster, but we don't even need that effect anyway, considering this card's already out on the field, because normally you only need the targeting effect to trigger the effect of this guy. This guy's already out on the field, so it doesn't matter anyway. Alright, he tried to threaten to go to battle phase here, which I'm not really sure how I was meant to respond, because I can't just leave this thing on the field, which, I think this thing is a main phase effect. Actually, this is only, oh, I actually got this wrong. This thing's only during your opponent's turn, so I could have done this during the battle phase. Doesn't matter, because I was going to use this anyway. He would try to swing into this monster, I'd have to activate its effect, or activate this thing's effect to attempt to tribute it. So instead, I'm going to try to use this thing here. He's going to activate the Quick Play spell to negate it and steal it. But that actually doesn't matter to me, because I've still got my main piece on the field. He thinks I'm playing a punk deck. No, this is a Nouvelle deck. So I'm going to tribute his main boss monster. Oh, not his main boss monster, his Link monster. To summon out my big boss monster from the deck, who on summon negates all of this and tributes it. So all this goes bye-bye. And he still has one more monster summoned, which he chose to put in attack position. What a nice guy. It wouldn't matter anyway, because he'd have to summon out a Link monster, which has to be in attack position. And as soon as he does so, activating the big boss monster, tribute it, and summon out the Hungry Burger. Perfect way to finish a video. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them and stuff. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.